if you are trying to cookie cut the market, it will not work in the long run, and you'll eventually end up blowing up and being out of the game. You've got to have a plan, and you've got to be flexible and able to adapt to different and always changing market conditions. In this video, I'm going to show you how we do that, how we make a plan ahead of the day, and then how we use that plan and how that changes as we go throughout the day. Welcome back to Day Trade Like a Pro. It is Wednesday, February 26th. We're looking at the S&P 500. Just a real simple 5-minute chart. And I want to show you coming into the day. If we go back here, one of the things that you'll see actually, I'll just pull this like that. Overnight, we traded right down to our prediction points right here. And we ended up bouncing pretty hard. If you read price action, this is a pretty good buying tail here. And so every other pullback, they bought the pullback. So coming into the morning, my plan was really as it was breaking, it was pushing higher and coming back. I was looking for a push at least up to this 66.5 area. We talked about that in the video. We said up above here, if they could get above here and hold above here, then it would open us up for this bigger target up here. And I'll talk about how that actually played out and how we ended up treating it. And I want to walk you through how this I'm going to show you on a tick chart how this actually played out here this morning. So we had right here, you can see they opened, and here was our previous low over here, and they came down and they put in, we had prices all through here. I'm not going to put all those in right now, but we had prices all here, here, here. So when they came here, they opened, they pushed it higher, they came back down here. There's a low, there's a higher low, there's a higher high, there's another higher low. And when they came back down here, another higher low. For me, this was a good confirmation that they were going to keep pushing it higher. So this trade was 44 half area with the target all the way up here. This thing went pretty quick all the way up here to 66 half. So that was a pretty good push. So when we came into the day, we said up above here, if they got above and held above here, then we'd be looking for higher. And what happened was that was pretty short-lived. If we go back over here to a 5-minute chart, you can see they came up and then they came right back down. Now if you look over here, what happened was they came down to this, they tried to hold here, and they ended up pushing it lower. And then we said in the live trade signals, we said no lower than that 50 area. Ideally, anything lower than 50 would be the sellers get a lot stronger. And I'll talk about that in a second. So we came down to 55, and then we ended up bouncing higher. 62.25 was important to get above again for another push back up. We didn't get above there. We came back down, and they ended up coming back to 50, and they couldn't get above 55. And then they just really played around in this area for a bit. We did have a price down here at, it was like 46.75. And I really didn't want to see it come back below there. So I was a seller when we traded below here and traded down to here. I was a seller up here and then a seller up here again, and it just wasn't getting any follow through. So this was a break even trade, and then it finally started to move. We came back up here. I'm going to switch back over to the 5-minute chart. So this is where we are right here. We came down, and then we ended up coming up, getting a push up here. Holding here, pushed up. We never got much action up above this KP. They came down here. They came right back to our key turns, and they came to our key turn price, which is one of our proprietary prices, and it came back up here, 78, used this KP to the tick, and then at this point when this held, definitely started looking for lower. We saw them come, and then right here around this 55. So this was great. I was doing a class during this time with some of our traders, and I was walking them through how the whole morning had played out and what was open, and they said, okay, great. So basically I'd walked through every single move that had happened and why it happened and what was going on, breaking it down on a tick chart and looking at that, and they said, great, so in real time, what is it we're looking at? And it was right about here. It was right about 9 o'clock Pacific time. And I said, well, they came back down here and they broke here, which this was really what we were looking. We really didn't want to have them come any lower than this. And we had a target down at 28.25 was the target. So when we were trading right around here, and I'll pull that up over here on a tick chart, we traded down over, it was a ways over here. We came back up, tested that to the tick, came down here, and then right here, we were trading right in here, and they said, well, where are we going? You know, in real time, where's the next move? And I said, well, 28.25 is really the next interim target. Not the bigger picture, but it's really the next target. And then you can see we got the move down to the CPA. We bounced a little, and then the low right here, 27.5. So they probed it by 3 ticks, which is nothing in this market when the Globex range is 70 points. And I said they probably would like to bounce back up around this CPA. That would make sense at this point. We broke, and they probably want to come back up to this area and test it. So they came all the way back up to 52.75. And then we obviously had prices lower. So we came down again, we came down here. I mean, the day was just really absolutely incredible. So I want to talk to you about, I mean, we can see that what ended up happening. They ended up pushing this thing lower. We came up, we tested the CPA. That worked beautifully for a move. I mean, and just to give you an idea, this is 33. And all the way down here to this is 97. So this is a 30 plus point move from there to there, and you know, pretty obvious trade. If you look at it right here on the 5-minute chart, that's the short, and all this has been used through here. So if they're going to hold here, it's going to be for this move down to here. So and we're probably not done, but that's a good start for now. So we're not going to get into that into tomorrow's trading much, but I do want to walk through with you what happened here when we said really didn't want to come lower than 50 area over here, and then they did. They came all the way down to 47.25. So when it came up, I was not shorting it at 50, so they broke. I wasn't shorting it at 50 right in that area. I figured they'd want to bring it back up here. And then that held here at 55.25 all the way down to 48.50. So we got a 7-point move off of the CPA here. And even if you didn't take any profits or anything, you can see this is a higher low than over here, and they started moving higher. And at that point, I just figured, okay, I got it wrong. It was okay to come back down to here. So my plan was if we traded below 50 area that I was going to start hitting it short unless we got back above 55. So really being flexible, we came down here, we came up to 55. I said, okay, we hit 55. This is where we want to go short from. So hitting it short at 55, it goes 7 points, comes back. And I just realized at this point, yeah, I obviously got it wrong here. And you know, when we started coming back, it wasn't right here, but when we started getting this movement back up here, I thought, okay, yeah, I got that wrong. You know, it was okay to come down to this area, and this little pullback is just for another push up. So really being flexible there. So my plan was pretty simple, and that happened. Same thing happened over here, and there was plenty of opportunity over here. Was I said above 66 half. We were going to be looking up here. So what happened? We pulled all the way. We're buying this. We're buying the pullback here. There's plenty of money to be made up here. We're back up above this 66 half area over here. There's plenty of room up to here. This is 11 points, so there's plenty of room to make some money in here on your trades. And then we're making another push up here, and we don't get up there higher, and the momentum starts to shift. And to me, you could see, okay, it's time for at least a bigger pullback, at least down to here. So when we got back down here and they couldn't hold here and we broke, the next target was 28.25, which was right there. And so they came down here. I think they probed that by 2 ticks. Yeah, so they broke that by 2 ticks, and then we got that bigger bounce and then another move down. So you just have to be flexible. At this point, I said, okay, if they don't hold on this right here, I said, all right, I'm going to be a seller from 77 down to 55 and see if they can hold 55. That's 22 points. And then 55, if that can hold, I'll be a buyer for another push higher. If 55 doesn't hold, I'm a seller down to 28. So you got to be making a plan, but then you also got to be flexible. You can't just be too rigid. You want to have a plan and then stick to your plan. And sometimes your plan is no good. For example, I had the plan, I said no lower than 50. They did come lower than 50. They came 2.5 points, 2.25 points lower than 50. And 2.75 points lower than 50. So, you've got to be able to be flexible, have a plan, say, okay, if this, and then I knew I could be wrong really quick if it traded back above 55. So I can try it at 55. I got some follow through. It didn't work. It came back up. Okay, great. I was wrong. Time to get back on buy side. And that's difficult for a lot of retail traders to do, is to switch sides, to go from buying to selling, to say, okay, I'm going to be buying it and I'm going to be selling it. So it's like, okay, I'm a buyer, I'm a buyer, I'm a buyer, I'm a buyer. And then, okay, I'm not a buyer anymore. I'm going to start selling. And then we do this and we come down here and it's like, okay, no, I need to be selling now or I need to be buying now after we get this pushing higher over here. Okay, great. They tried it here, it didn't work. I'm now a buyer again. And so being flexible and being able to switch sides, really, absolutely critical here. So there you have it for today. You can go back and watch the preview for today. Walked you through the whole thing in the pre-market, what to expect, how to expect it to happen, how it was going to unfold, and more or less, the plan worked out really well. Every day's not perfect, but good. We had a good plan today, and it really, it worked out well for the most part. And a couple of changes that we had to make as the day went on. But that was pretty obvious. I told the traders in the live trade signals that basically what was happening was that it was tough to, with a 70-point Globex range, you really have to be able to read the price action as it's happening. And that was definitely how today unfolded. So big benefit to be able to be talking with other traders and hear what their perspective was and what they were looking for. And I know we had guys that had record days, and a lot of traders that had a good time. So we'll be back at it again in live trade signals. If you didn't watch the pre-market video, you can go check that out up at the top here in the corner, and we'll see you in the live trade signals tomorrow.